Hello, welcome to Lemon Studios, where we talk movies, television, and wrestling. I'm, of course, the Lemon himself, Zeke Lemon, and this is my review for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. But before we get into that, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. Share them to leave a like. Comment below and know your thoughts on 28 Years, The Bone Temple. And, of course, hit that subscribe button as that helps me grow into my YouTube career. I would greatly appreciate it. Now, all that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? So, Crash went away as we started recording. He almost knocked down the light system, and I would have had to restart. So that would have been interesting. So we'll see if that stays in. So I loved that first 28 Years Later. Well, love is a strong word. I really liked it. I liked it quite a bit. I think it finished within the middle, within my rankings of all movies I saw last year. And I was really looking forward to part two. Because one of my gripes of part one, it's not necessarily the ending. I know a lot of people are like, oh, the ending is really wacky and it just doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. It's like, no, I thought that movie was always at that heightened level all the way through, but it just didn't feel complete to me, right? Like, it just felt like, yes, this was part one of a 3-part story. And I will say, here within the Bone Temple, even though, yes, it does feel like a part two within 3, especially with how this movie ends, there is a little zinger that makes you want to go, ooh, where's part 3? And I need it right now. I will say this movie does a much better job at concluding its own story. And I really feel like part 1 and part 2 really complement each other, and you won't enjoy the Bone Temple as much if you haven't seen part 1, which I couldn't imagine people didn't. Like, I imagine if you've seen part 1, you're going to see part 2, and if you haven't seen part 1, you're probably not interested in seeing part 2. But more so than ever, because sometimes within some franchises, you can go into the sequel, you can get caught up a little bit. And then, you'll be fine after that. You don't necessarily need to watch the first one because we do some recaps within the sequel. With here, no, you really do need part 1 to really fully understand and fully appreciate everything that we are doing within part 2, especially when it comes to Jack O'Connor's character, Jimmy, here. He is, man, when he was talking in interviews saying, my character in 28 Years Later really makes, my character in Sinners look like a saint. You're just like, okay, yeah, no, he's really amping up his villain. No, there is some truth to that. As this character is playing this very visceral, very lunatic fringe type character who has his set of beliefs and, is really cult-like leadership throughout, and what he does to other parties that they meet along the way. And our eye line is our man. I cannot remember Spike from the first film, who was going toe to toe with Aaron Taylor Johnson and Jodie Comer and Ray Fiennes. And this one, he's going to go toe to toe with Jack O'Connor, and he's good, and Ray Fiennes again. And again, he has such a good light, a good POV of how we are viewing the Jimmy group and seeing how visceral and how evil they are and how scary they are. Truly, like, the real horror in this movie is not even necessarily the zombies here or the infected. It really is Jimmy's group. And again, Jack O'Connor is a big part of that, but also Spike reacting to those things is a really good indicator of us to fully buy into these villains and really be like, man, I am frightened by them. Ray Fiennes, though, this is mainly his movie, I would say. His storyline is very, very interesting throughout. And I don't know if it was me adjusting to the tempo of this film. And I probably should have known it going into it because, in part 1, Danny Boyle directed that one. And yeah, he's very serious. You can understand, like, all his shots have very, have purpose to them. All shots have purpose to them. I want to make that very clear. But, he has all those things. But, he's willing to go, yeah, I don't know, it looked kind of cool. Yeah, this looked like fun, so we did that. Again, very up-tempo type movie when it comes to the first 28 Years Later. Here, with Nia DaCosta at the helm, and she's very methodical. She gives everything attention to detail. She's wanting everything to be pictured like it's a painting. Like, that's how I view her work and all that. Enjoy her stuff for sure, but she has a much more slower, methodical pace. And with that, I can understand why people would think this movie is slow. Now, I wouldn't say slow, I would say methodical, because yes, this is not necessarily a slow burn. I think everything is happening for a reason, but as, Danny Boyle, who's shooting the infected in this world, crazy is not the right word, but, it's much more heightened, for lack of a better term, which could lean more to some people. I'm definitely one of them. I prefer the heightenedness of the infected and this world that Danny Boyle brought as to Nia DaCosta. Although I can still appreciate what she did in this film. I think she did a phenomenal job directing. But how she shot it was almost like it was a nature documentary in a lot of ways. You're looking at the infected, you're seeing them how they respond to some things. You get to really understand the infected, and this is probably why she was the right person to direct this project, because that is really truly at the crux of this, is to really focus on the infected and on the things that we are going to do that makes some things very interesting on part 3 if we are to get it. But yeah, with her, you know, when the affected are at play, you're kind of looking at them and you're kind of just observing them, and then, you know, the stuff happens, and, you know, it's just more, I mean, intimate's not the right word either, but it's just shot differently. I can't really think of the right words to go about it. But again, while Danny Boyle was much more in your face on it, in your face within it, Nia DaCosta is taking a much more broad approach, I guess would be the lack of a better words. But yeah, in the first half where, you know, the Jimmies and Ray Fiennes are at separate entities, and then, you know, we also have our affected storyline as well. Yes, like I said, they have a storyline in this too, and understanding where they're coming from. It's really when all three of these really start to merge, whether it be, you know, two of them are playing over here and one's over there. But once they all start to merge within each other and really blend in, I think the movie really starts, not necessarily to pick up, because again, it stays at the methodical pace all the way through. But to me, I just started to appreciate things a lot more. Now, in a lot of ways, you know, movies are better at the beginning because you want to start off very strong, and then the rest of the film, you know, it's like kind of play catch up to that, right? Some films, you know, it's really the middle of the movie. You're really loving the middle. Yeah, it took a little bit to get going, but now we're here in the adventure. Then as we get to wrap up, you're like, okay, yeah, let's get ready to get home. This is one of those movies where the finale is the best part. Once you get to it, there is this sequence in the film, and there's a needle drop involved, and you know what needle drop is going to be when someone pulls out a record and you see the band name. And if you know the band name, you know the exact record. I actually think the cover is that record cover. You only see it for a split second, so I don't fully know. I just saw the name. I was like, oh, I know exactly what song is about to play here. And when that song plays and the sequence that follows it going throughout, it is an absolute riot. It is so metal. It is so much fun. It's so heightened, and it's like, it's just so odd, right? Because again, with Nia DaCosta, who is very much, you know, very slow, you know, very artistic, because every film's artistic. I don't know why people say artistic for certain people, but not. But, you know, it's very artistic and very, you know, very intentional and all these different things. You don't expect her to go so far out with something, right? So to see her do this and execute it to absolute perfection, again, like after the scene ends, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really not someone who starts claps at all. Like if someone I'm not one of those people who's like, you shouldn't clap in movie theaters because they aren't there. No, if something brings you to a feeling where you want to cheer it on, absolutely do it. But I usually don't start claps, right? If someone claps and I also thought it was cool, yeah, you know, I'll clap along. That's no problem. I've only started to clap once before, and that was when Cap held Mjolnir. When he grabbed Mjolnir, I was like, fuck yeah. And I was like clapping all that. This movie had that same reaction to me. I started clapping. Like I didn't say fuck yeah. I was like, that was awesome. And clap, and a bunch of other people clapped too. Then afterwards, we all started laughing because again, just how preposterous that whole scene was. And I mean that in the absolute most complimentary way. Then as we get to the ending and then everything wraps up and you get that stinger for part 3, yeah, you are like, I need part 3 right now. So I really hope everyone goes out to the theaters to go see this movie and that it does successful, because we were guaranteed to get 2 when part 1 came out. Now it's all about the receipts and what we're going to get and what the reception is. The reception's already positive. Now we need to show up and make sure that we can solidify this part 3 and we can get it as soon as possible. Now, another problem I have, again, when it comes to the future, if we are to get it, because overall, they wrap it up pretty much where, like, if this was to say goodbye, it's like, damn, I would have really liked to see that final chapter, but I still feel satisfied with what we got. Again, these two movies really complement each other very well. Something that's within this movie, and again, with other future films, with some decisions, knowing that this was a part 2 of 3. Some characters from part 1 are not in part 2 that I do believe we should have cut to at least once to explain something. You know, Spike, who ran away from home, and his dad at the end of part 1, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is very beat up. about it, and he wants to go out and find his son. I get it, his home is saying, no, you can't go. But I think as a father and as someone who loved his son as much as he did, he would go out to look. Now, granted, in part one, he didn't go look for his son and wife when they disappeared. So I guess there was an explanation for that. But I would like to see that character again, right? I think there was a purpose for him to come into play here. We could have gone a little bit longer. Runtime wasn't in essence for me whatsoever. And we lose some characters here in part 2 that I would have liked to see in part 3, or we presume that we lose here in part 2. And I do hope we do see in part 3. If this was their last outing, I think we maybe shorthanded them a little bit. Again, very strong representation, very standout character, but I would have liked to see a little bit more and for them to be, you know, again, have a presence in that final chapter. But there is hope, and we will see if we are to get that part 3. But overall, I had a blast. I know we're only like, 3 weeks into 2026. Right now, this is easily number 1 for 2026 right now for me. So yeah, hold up the title. I don't have it with me right now. I don't know where it's at. But yeah, great time at the theater. Definitely go out and go see it. Not just because you'll have a great time, especially with that bonkers finale that is just an absolute riot. But also because it's a great film and it's a part 2 of a 3 that is not guaranteed yet. So we need as many butts in the seats that we can get so we can guarantee that part 3. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this movie if you had a chance to go see it. Like this video if you made it this far. I do greatly appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button as I am trying to grow into my YouTube career. And don't forget to squeeze the days, guys, because life is too short not to give you also squeeze every opportunity that you can. Until next time, I'll see you here at Lemon Studios.